Welcome to C60 Health Connections, where we meet with leading experts in the health and wellness space. On today's show, we are going to discuss best practices for leadership in your life and in your business with CEO Chris Guerriero. Chris has built multiple eight-figure businesses and is known for his expertise in developing winning leadership teams and business systems that supercharge brand growth. He has an extensive track record in marketing, customer retention, and team development. He is a highly connected executive leader and advisor in various industries spanning health, medical, digital advertising, legal, and real estate. He's an early stage investor, advisor, and equity holder in various companies. He's also the founder of Club 28 and has been featured in several financial publications, including Success, Inc., Bloomberg TV, and Entrepreneur. Chris also shares his business and leadership expertise on his podcast and on his social media channels, which we will link below in our show notes today. If you are interested in learning some of the secrets that top business leaders use to accelerate their growth and success, both personally and professionally, and you'd like to optimize your health this year, then stick around. You do not want to miss my conversation with Chris Guerriero. My name is Jessica McNaughton, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at C60 Purple Power. I'm a business executive with years of experience in corporate America, and for the last 20 years, I've been exploring various modalities in health, wellness, and spirituality. Now, before we get started, these statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. Any products or topics discussed today are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Chris, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Jessica, it's great to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. I love having conversations with you. And every time I get the opportunity to chat with you, I walk away just pretty much blown away. So I'm really excited to invite our audience to listen into some of what you have to offer. I know today is going to be pretty powerful. So let's just dive right into it. Our context today is somewhat a leadership 101, but I'm really curious about, Chris, as it relates to health, you've got a really impressive background in health. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about some of your most interesting observations and takeaways, both personally and professionally, from owning businesses in the health space, but also being a fitness advocate and expert yourself?
Wow. Well, that's we could be here all day with that one, I guess. I don't know that you even know some of this stuff about me. So I'm going to give you a quick story, and then I guess we'll get into some of the things that I've seen with, trends, not just in the industry, but also in people, and the trends that I think have made most people successful, energized, live a better, more fulfilling life, that kind of stuff. But I actually started in business as a personal fitness trainer. And I don't know that, we've known each other now for a year and a half or something like that. I don't know that you even knew that. But for years, when I was in college, I started this personal training company. It was called Body Sculpting. It was so long ago. And it grew to almost 150 trainers working with me up and down the East Coast. And then that turned into my first health club. And from there, I grew that into a chain of health clubs throughout New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. I was in that industry for over a decade. Sold my last club in 2004. And right before that, I wrote my first health book. And I hate to start this way because it's going to make it sound like I'm only in the health industry, but that's where my roots are, right? And that was my passion. My passion from the day I guess entered adulthood has been the mechanics of the things inside of my body and mind, and how to optimize cognitive performance, how to optimize physical performance in a good way. And that brought me into the health field. So my first book came out in around 2003, right before I sold that company, the health clubs. And then that was turned into a health TV show, and then a variety of health memberships online where we helped millions and millions of people. It was a phenomenal time in my life. But a lot of the trends that I found there were very similar to trends among anything in life, right? Among your kids, among your employees, among everything. When we want to lose weight, or we want to stick to a healthy diet, or we want to, eat or drink or live in a way that gives us so much cognitive performance that we just feel mentally clear at all times, it comes down to a few things. It comes down to having a big reason why, right? Because the great majority of people, whether you're in business or it's just you sitting at your kitchen table trying to figure out how am I going to have a better family life? How am I going to have better health? How am I going to just feel more fulfilled? Nothing really happens without having a big reason why. And then let's take that to the next level, because it's not just having a big reason why with yourself, because being able to motivate yourself is one thing, but being able to motivate those around you in a good way, in a positive way, is even more important sometimes. So understanding what everybody else's big reason why is huge. Because, and I'll give you an example. When my son was, this is maybe about 2 years ago, when my son was struggling a little bit in math. He wasn't really struggling to understand math. He was struggling to want to actually do math, because it just seems like if you understand the new math in school, it's completely crazy. And he didn't think that was important. And so I had to understand what his big reasons why were in life, like what he wanted to achieve in life. And then I could marry what I wanted him to do, which was understand math, to getting what he really wanted in his life. And then once that is done in a relatively good way, and it's understandable, and it comes from a very an honest standpoint from me, then it's believable, and he now understands math, right? But it's the same thing with your team when you're in business, getting to understand everybody's reason why, what they want to achieve, and then marry your company targets with helping them to achieve their reason why, so that every time the company grows, everybody's getting closer to their goals. And every time people get closer to their goals, the company's getting closer to its goals. It's pretty fascinating when you start digging into that. But it's also fascinating when you dig into what are your reason why? I mean, like, what is your reason why for wanting to do anything? Because if you don't have that and it's not big enough, then when dark times happen, when somebody passes that chocolate cake in front of you, if you're trying to lose weight, if your reason why is not big enough to stay healthy, then you're going to grab that cake.
Yeah.
Or that drink or whatever.
Yeah. So I love that you use that why for yourself and others, both personally and professionally.
Yeah. It's huge. I think the great majority of things that we do for ourselves, we can extrapolate into how we communicate with other people. And I think, and like, communication is one of those things. I think that everything that is important in your life should be a study. And so when you find something that you are either not great at, or that is super important in everything in life, it should be a study in your life. And that might mean just watching some YouTube videos. It might mean listening to podcasts like this to become better at certain things. It might mean reading books. It might mean connecting with good people. Whatever it is, communication, in my opinion, should be a staple in everybody's life. That should be a study in everybody's life. So anyway, we're going down a rabbit hole.
I love it. Well, let's stay on this health track, because you and I have had a lot of different conversations about mitochondria, and I know that you've got some secret tips that you utilize for your own health and wellness and performance, and also to support healthy aging, or maybe even potentially anti-aging. And I'm wondering if you would mind sharing some of those secrets with our audience.
Yeah. Hey, I don't think any of them are secrets. I just think that the secret is actually getting yourself to do some of these things, because they're not so comfortable, let's just say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so mitochondria, I believe, are like, you had a guest on who was a buddy of mine, Dr. Capasso, right? And Anthony Capasso. He's brilliant when it comes to mitochondrial health, and he and I have very long conversations about this stuff.
And by the way, his episode is going to preview just before yours. So
wonderful.
we'll have his and then yours will be up next.
That'll be, I'm honored to be in that, that category. So, mitochondria, very, very short story is that there's mitochondria in almost, not every cell of your body, but almost every cell in your body. And they are the powerhouses. So our goal is to increase the healthy number of mitochondria in every cell in our body, while decreasing the number of mitochondria that are maybe a little bit aged or morphed into a not an optimized form. And I'm using extremely lay terms because that's how I understand this. It's not my field, though I've spent a lot of time studying it. And but some of the things that I have found that increase your mitochondria, but also make me instantly feel better or perform more efficiently, are things like cold therapy. Like cold therapy is my number one. It's my number one go-to for anything. If I injure myself in the gym, I got ice next to me. If I have a hard workout, or if I am overstressed, then I get into a cold, either a cold bath or some type of a cold therapy session. Every single morning, sometimes halfway through the day, again, I take a cold shower. Things like that, I believe, are huge, not just on mitochondrial health, but for cognitive performance. And I think that whether you care about mitochondrial health, or you care about anti-aging, or you care about, getting leaner or whatever, I think everybody cares about cognitive performance, because that's mental clarity. That's when you don't have mental fog. That's when you can make split-second decisions much faster. That's when you could come across as highly caffeinated like I do, when you drink nothing but, water in a coffee cup. And so cold therapy has a lot to do with that, but not just cold therapy. I think staying very, very hydrated is huge. And I could tell, often, as I'm in meetings throughout the day. Like this morning, right before we started filming, we were talking, and I've been in meetings with attorneys and law firms all day long for different companies of mine. We're going through the acquisition of another company. So that is one facet of law that I'm dealing with. We're going through contract rewrites in another company. We're going through a lot of little things, which are wonderful, but attorneys make my eye twitch. And I could tell that if I'm not hyper hydrated, like if I don't keep myself hydrated, like today I didn't until right before this call, like right before this interview, I hydrated as much as I possibly could, although it's not as instantaneous as that. But I was on video calls all morning, so I wasn't able to like drink water and still stay focused. So, but I could tell a difference when I'm not hydrated, and I think everybody can. The challenge is that everybody gets used to the norm of not being hydrated, and they think that mental clarity is a norm for them, which is wonderful when they start hydrating or doing a few other things that really optimizes their brain.
That's great. One of the other things we've talked about is, and this has to do with health, but it's more in the kind of like the stress management category. And that's about knowing really kind of what can reset you and help you calm down and feel more balanced. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, guide me on that. What have we talked
So
about?
we've talked about water before. Like you just mentioned, you utilize, cold therapy to help support your mitochondrial, but we've also talked about, going to the beach and like figuring out in terms of stress management, what is really supportive to you. So I'm also a water person, and about 2 months ago, I had a chance to go to Florida, and I just spent the entire weekend on the beach with my feet in the sand, grounding. And I came back just feeling like a different person. I was totally recharged. I just felt calm. I felt happy. And I had an aha, and I was like, I live in Colorado, and I have some access to a place that I can go do my stand-up paddleboard about 10 minutes from where I live. But outside of that, there's not a really big body of water, ocean or lake, that I have access to on a regular basis. And the place that I do the stand-up paddleboard, I really wouldn't want to swim in the water. So I came back from that trip, and I was like, I need to make a commitment to myself to actually get to the beach like more often. So whether it's on a quarterly basis or even more frequently than that, that's something that I'm committing to doing now for myself, because I really felt a profound shift in just my stress level by just the physical change for me. So do you want to just share a little bit about how people might be able to tap in or understand what, what's best for them to support kind of a reset when they're overstressed or overworked or just need to like recharge their batteries?
Yeah, absolutely share. But I'm going to ask you a question right after I share. And then
Sure.
I'll ask you to go
Turn it
deep
around.
on other things, because I think it's super important. And this may be, I guess, one of the most important things that I came across when it comes to kind of resetting myself is that you need, at least I do, and a lot of the executives inside of my companies, we have annual meetings and we talk about this kind of stuff. And I think it's really important for them to live a healthy, fulfilled life, that they all are also mentally stable and they are healthy. So being able to reset yourself is, a huge, hugely important when it comes to aiming in that direction. So I think it's super important that you have a list of things that will help you reset. And that list could be, and I'll share with you something that I'm going to do today, which is really amazing for me. And I can't wait to do it. It's actually a couple of hours after this interview. You have to have a list, and it should be a running list, and it should be a list that is kept someplace where you could see it on a regular basis, so that when things pop into your head, you will add it to the list. And there's going to be, two columns on my list. My list has an A and a B column. The A column are for things that immediately recharge me in a big, big way, and that is like you going to the beach. My body resets when I'm in a good, clear, warm, salt water. So there are certain places that I love going, but I could go to almost any ocean and reset myself. And it takes, it's not immediate, but definitely I feel something when I first get there, and then I get more and more juice from it, and I get clarity, and I feel a lot better. But there's a lot of other things on my list, getting a good night's sleep, which is not always something that happens in my life. But if I can dedicate a few extra hours to sleep, and you and I have another good friend in common, who is a great buddy of mine, and he's a sleep specialist. And he and I talk every once in a while. We brainstorm on different ways that I could go a little bit deeper in my sleep, or I could stay asleep for another 15 minutes or whatever, and just try to improve upon that. So getting a good night's sleep, or laughing. I think laughing is probably one of the best things that we could do. There's a cascade of chemical reactions that happen inside of your body when you laugh, when you're with friends and you laugh. That's a huge thing. So I make it a point to make sure that I get together with friends. Like, we have a board of directors meeting once a month. And when I'm sitting around my board, before we get started with business, we go around the table and we talk about what's been going on in each other's lives since the last time we saw each other 30 days ago. And I laugh constantly, because these are high-powered executives, guys and ladies who are running, multiple 8-figure companies, some of them running 9-figure companies, and they do the stupidest things that just make you laugh, and they laugh about it, right? So it's hysterical. And today, one of the things that I love that's on my list on a regular basis is I've got a date with my daughter at 5:00 tonight, and I'm going to have dinner with her, and we're probably going to spend about 5-6 hours together, and we're going to have dinner, and then we're going to hang out, and we're going to talk, and we're going to share stories together. And I love that alone time with her, and I have that time with my son also. But tonight happens to be her night. That's why I'm bringing it up.
That's
So
awesome.
a list. So my question to you is, outside of going to the beach, because you can't go to the beach on a regular basis, what if something comes up that is big? So my column A are the big things. My column B are a bunch of small things that I could do instantaneously when shit hits the fan, or when a fire comes up in business and it takes me away from everything and I need to de-stress. What are some of the things on your list that you could do in between beach visits?
So for me, my smallest, and these are daily things that I can integrate on a daily basis to deal with stress, and that's meditation.
Yep.
It's also exercise. I love hiking. I love mountain biking, and I'm in a place where it's literally in my backyard, so that's readily available to me. And then how I get my water fix is my nighttime routine is taking a really nice bath with some Epsom salt, some lavender essential oil, and just putting my body in water. I just really could just release the day and get prepared for sleep. And like you, Sleep has been something that's been challenging for me throughout my life. And we did have an opportunity to sit down and talk with your good friend, Dr. Kirk Parsley. And so if you guys want to check out that episode, I'm going to link that below here as well. But we had a fascinating conversation, and I learned so much about the nutrients that are essential for a good night's sleep. And I have been using I'm going to put this up right here.
Oh, look at that.
See it. Dr. Kurt Parsley's sleep supplement, his sleep remedy, and it's at docparsley.com. But this has got melatonin and a bunch of other awesome ingredients that support sleep. And I do a little bit of this right before I go to bed. But the things that he told me that were important included making sure that 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, you start getting prepared for bed. So you're not having a late dinner, you're not watching negative news or, being exposed to a, screen time or anything like that. You're just getting yourself prepared. And he told me that, that time is sacred, and he doesn't let anybody or anything interrupt that. And I'm still working on that. I'm definitely a work in progress, but I know that you also have learned many great things about sleep from Kirk as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, we'll go back to what I was saying before. Everything important in life should be a study. Sleep is super important for us. No matter what you do for a living, it doesn't make a difference. If you want to continue to live and be happy, then you need to get a good night's of sleep. That's a little bit difficult for me sometimes because I lay down and my brain is still working when it comes to business. And that's a bit of a shame, but yeah, so Kirk, as well as, several other very dear friends of mine have, been brainstorm partners for me for making that a study in my life. And I wish I could say I mastered sleep, and I hope to be able to say that at some point, but I haven't. And it gets a little bit better on a regular basis. I get better. And then all of a sudden I'll have a night where I've got a lot of things on my mind and it just doesn't work. But I'm very blessed in the fact that even if I don't get sleep, as soon as it's time to get going for work, man, I'm just in it. I'm in it. I put my blinders on, my head down, and I just charge forward because I get juiced and jazzed and excited about everything that I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, on the topic of sleep, we've talked about this before, but I think there's a big misconception, especially in corporate America. There's a lot of business dinners that happen, a lot of late nights, a lot of client entertainment. And, oftentimes people think like, oh, if I drink red wine, that's going to be supportive to my sleep, or that maybe that's even part of some people's nighttime ritual is to have a glass of wine either with dinner or before bed to they're using that as something on their column B list to easily access decompressing. Talk to us a little bit about your perspective about whether or not that's actually productive or not.
Yeah, so I will talk on that just from my perspective, my experience, my personal thoughts on it. I have no medical background on this whatsoever. However, drinking any kind of an alcohol prior to bed is like a big no-no. And any time that I have ever been out with friends or with business associates or at a board meeting and everybody, and I'll tell you, let me finish the sentence first. Anytime I've done that, it's always disrupted my sleep. Now at board meetings, we have a guy on our board who has a wine cellar, and he's always bringing in amazing bottles of wine. And I feel like it's kind of rude for me not to have a glass of wine in front of me. So I sip on it every once in a while, and in that little bit doesn't hurt me. It doesn't slow down my sleep, I don't think. But if I did it too close to bed, it would definitely be a problem.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it. And listen, I'm very big on enjoying, like setting myself up so that I have the clarity and the physical stamina and everything that I need here in order to perform well and enjoy life. Is that enough Italian for me? Or
that
for
was
you
great.
talking
Yeah,
with
I like
my
that.
friends? Yeah. So and anything that anybody ever tells me, oh, well, you're not enjoying life unless you're going out and you're drinking every once in a while. It's a good way to let your hair down. It's a good way to, to relax and recharge after a hard week. It always makes me feel worse. Like it never made me feel better to do that kind of stuff. Like,
yeah,
like physically, emotionally, every way I felt like I just hurt myself. And then you wake up the next day and you feel worse. So I don't believe that things like that should be part of my life. I'm not against it. And I certainly am not, I'm not opposed to other people enjoying it. I don't think it's really good for, for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, one thing that I don't think that I've shared with you, I want to tell you thank you. You and I were having a conversation one day, and I was talking about some acupuncture I was getting done, and you were like, "Hey, Jess, like, have you actually done any blood tests? Like, or are you just taking, feedback from the lady that you're getting acupuncture from?" And I was like, "I haven't done any blood work in a while, but because of your encouragement and recommendation that maybe I do a deeper dive, I've learned a lot about myself and my physical chemistry and kind of what's going on with my body at age 44, soon to be 45. And I just was hoping that you could share with us a little bit about, your perspective on doing blood work and how important that is, whether you're an executive concerned about performance or you're a man or woman, who's interested in aging gracefully. Tell us your thoughts on doing a deeper dive with blood panel work and things like that.
Yeah, I get a blood test every 6 months, and I have probably for, I don't even know now, maybe 5 years or so. I mean, I'm guessing, but about 5 years I've been doing it. And it's so exciting because I geek out on this kind of stuff. It's nice to be able to see what's going on inside your body. It's nice to no longer be guessing at what nutrient you need to put into your body. I mean, the very first time I did a blood test, and by the way, when I'm talking about a blood test, I mean a really thorough blood test. I have an executive health doc, and he helps to figure out which tests would be best. And then and we always do the same tests that we did the previous time. We may add another test on, but we always do the other tests also, because what we're looking for, one blood test really doesn't tell you anything. One blood test just tells you what happened to come out on that blood test from the food you ate, from the amount of sleep you got, from the stress level you had the day before that blood test. But when you have multiple blood tests, you have what's called a track record. And you could see, oh, my iron was a little bit high for 2 blood tests in a row, right? So not high, but on the high side of normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a little bit of a deep dive there, and I found out that, a lot of guys have high iron, and high iron is really bad for your internal organs. So if my goal is to be on this earth for a long period of time, that's not a good thing. So I started a habit of donating blood, and I donate blood every 8 weeks or so now. And I've been doing that for a long time. And I hate it because I hate needles. However, I do it and I look away, and I tell them every single time, if I cry, please, don't laugh at me. But I do it because I know for a fact that makes me healthier. And there's so many benefits to donating blood on a regular basis that I would have never known about had I not had that blood test and found out that I had a slightly elevated iron. But did you know that when you donate blood, and again, I'm not a doctor, nor am I a scientist. This is just from the stuff that I have researched. But when you donate blood, your body gives away a whole bunch of blood, right? Let's just call it whatever it is, a pint or whatever it is that they take out. They take that out. It's both the good and the bad blood that comes out. There's no way for the needle to segment and just take out the good blood. It's all the good and the bad blood. Then your body remakes over the next several weeks good blood, right? So you're giving away good and bad, and your body's only replacing that with good. So it's wonderful. And as a guy, we don't have any normal things inside of our chemistry that make us donate blood every month, like a woman does. So we have to, it's like to go to a phlebotomist or go to somebody to actually donate blood, I think is super important, right? So that's a lot of fun. But I learned that from blood tests, but I've learned a lot of things. And you'll find out, you might read marketing material saying you need to take magnesium because magnesium, oh my God, it's part of 300 different chemical reactions inside of the human body. And most people are deficient in magnesium. And you might read these things and start taking magnesium on a regular basis because you believe you need it, like the marketing tells you. But if you do a blood test, and you might find out that your magnesium, not just in your blood, but your magnesium in your cells, which is even more important to know, is actually optimal. So taking more of it might throw some of your other minerals off, So in either case, it gives you a really clear shot of what's going on inside your body. And then you understand how to optimize a lot of things inside your life, whether that's your cognitive performance or your weight or anything.
Yeah, I've learned so much over the past 2 years in this space. Because when I was in my 20s and 30s, I felt healthy and I was working a lot. So I just assumed everything was okay, but I didn't really understand what was going on with my hormones at different points in my life. And just going to a regular doctor, if I, got an annual blood test, he would say, okay, well, like your thyroid, he's like, it's on the lower end of the scale, but it's still normal. So you're fine. And then turns out I go to a specialist and she's like, no, actually everything could be optimized in your body if you had a little extra thyroid. So I think there's a lot of value in doing the deep dive and working with specialists who can really help you analyze and make sure you get those tests done. And that, when you are taking supplements, that they're beneficial to you and you know what they're actually doing to your body versus, like you said, just reading the marketing material.
Yeah, which is, as we both know, extremely confusing with all the BS that's out there online about most supplements. Not all. It's very rare that we come across like a supplement that really is necessary and backed by tremendously good research. And then after you find that supplement, you got to find a company. Like when you and I got introduced, because of how much respect I have for your company and the product that you put out, it's rare. For every one of you, there's another 100, to be conservative, companies that are literally just out there because they saw Dr. Oz or somebody else speak highly of a nutrient, and now they're coming out with that nutrient just to make, to take some of that market share.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting characters and actors in our space for sure, but I appreciate your kind words. So thank you very much.
Of course.
Let's shift gears a little bit. We're living through some uncertain times right now, and I'm really curious about what your perspective is and what kind of advice you'd give our listeners about decision making in this wild world that we're living in, that's volatile, it's filled with chaos, there's lots of uncertainty and ambiguity all along. Like, how do you personally, and how do you advise your clients on just to think clearly and navigate through just weird, strange times?
I understand what you're talking about with all this things that have been in the news lately. We've made very few shifts inside of my companies when COVID hit and when all the other discrepancies, or whatever you want to call them, hit the news. I think that one of the most important things to do is to be clear on where you're going, and then to become a guardian of what's going on inside your head and limit distractions. And the people, the companies, and by the way, I shouldn't say the companies, because every company is led by people. So the people who continue to be successful, continue to forge forward, and continue to be happy are the ones who are super clear on what their target is. They limit their distractions. They know what's important, not just in order to get them to from where they are to where they want to go, but what's important in their lives, right? Kids, health, wealth, experiences, accumulating good memories, the things that are really important to them. And by the way, that list is for me. It may not be for you, it may not be for everybody else, but you have to understand what is important in your life. And then you have to understand, and I think this is key, because if you don't, getting clear is one thing, and limiting distractions is something that's very important to keep you moving forward towards what you want. But understanding what the few key actions are that you need to stay focused on is super important, because there's so many shiny objects that people chase on a regular basis. Like we were just talking about marketing, you can go online and try to figure out, how do I stay focused? And you'll get 12 supplements, you'll get 3 info products, you'll get, so many different people trying to sell you something about how to stay focused, when in reality, maybe all you need is to learn how to meditate 20 minutes a day. because when you do that, you have this level of clarity that very few people actually achieve. And it's not immediately, but if you've been doing that for a few weeks or for a few months, you have such a level of clarity that when chaos is actually happening around you and everybody else seems like, they're putting out fires all day, you're literally walking. I mean, you picture yourself walking through the flames. Everybody else is trying to put out fires. You're literally staying the course, because you understand where you're going. And then at the end, when everybody kind of calms down, you're much further ahead, and they're trying to figure out now, how do we now open up the country and start going to restaurants again? How do we now start doing, business again? How do we now start being happy again? How do we, and then everybody's talking about what they did during COVID, which makes me feel, and by the way, I'm not belittling it. It was a horrible experience for everybody, right? I'm pleased. I hope your listeners are not getting super pissed at me, although I'm sure I'm pissing some people off. But I look at that mindset of stopping everything in your life because there was one thing going on, kind of like the high school football player who peaks during high school football, and then the rest of their life, they just keep looking back and they reference the whole thing. There's no need to keep referencing COVID, keep referencing being stuck in your house, keep referencing inoculations, keep referencing all the things that are in your past. If you stay focused on where you want to go and what's important to you in life to get to those things, you'll lead a much happier life.
I love that perspective.
Well, thank you, because I didn't try to be delicate in the way I said it.
I think that's brilliant. No, I think that's great. So I heard you say, you need to get clear, you need to limit your distractions, you need to focus on the key actions that will help you achieve those things that are most important to you. But earlier in our conversation, you also talked about being a student in your life of communication and things. And I've heard you talk a lot about core competencies. Mm-hmm. And, earlier in my life, I spent a lot of time, instead of focusing just on the things I was really good at, I thought it was important to dive into the things that I wasn't good at. And I spent a lot of time, I would say, efforting to develop skills or abilities or expertise in areas that weren't necessarily natural to me, but I thought it was really important to integrate those into like kind of my business toolkit, if you will. But I wasted a lot of time, mostly because those things I didn't enjoy. So when people are focusing on the key actions to take, can you talk a little bit about the importance of understanding your core competencies and how people might be able to do that? Because that's something that, man, I probably could have had 5 years, saved if I wasn't trying to do all these other things.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. And by the way, you're one of the brilliant ones out there. If you've only wasted 5 years, the great majority of people will go their entire life and not understand what we're going to talk about right now. And that's that it is important to become very clear on what you are good at, mm-hmm. not necessarily what you enjoy, but what your stupid human trick is, right? The thing that you just, that when you walk into a room, you're just good at this thing. And it may be building relationships, right? It may be networking with people. It may be putting your head down and understanding numbers, not my core competency. Like I need numbers inside of my companies in order to make the right decisions every single day. Emily delivers to me the 3 to 5 key numbers that I need, the metrics that I need for each one of my companies inside of my portfolio, so that I could keep driving my companies forward. But if I was the one that needed to come up with those numbers, everything would go to I would have never been able to get to any kind of level of success, even with one company, let alone the number that I have. So you have to understand what your core competencies are. The factor is, the thing that really separates everybody is that then you surround yourself with smart people. And so that's 2 levels. The first level is smart people who are good at the things that you're not good at. The second level is smart people who have achieved what you want to achieve and are willing to take the time to pull you up, because the great majority of people in your life are pulling you down, right? Again, I'm going to say something that might sound rude to some people. most employees inside of your company, inside of most people's companies, if left to their own devices, they pull you down because they don't have the same focus. Like they don't have a fiduciary responsibility to grow that company. They have a responsibility in their own lives to just make enough money to be able to live the life that they want to live. And your company is a tool for them, right? So you as a CEO or you as a business owner, you have a responsibility to surround yourself with people who have achieved what you want to achieve so that they could keep showing you the easiest path and knocking those landmines out so that you could keep charging forward, right?
Yeah.
The other part, the first part that I was talking about is that when you understand your core competency and you know that your core competency is not enough to get you from where you are to where you want to go,
Yeah.
you surround yourself with people who can do the things that need to happen in conjunction with what you're going to do so that together you guys are like an engine that cannot be stopped.
Yep.
But smart people, right? You surround yourself with stupid people and they slow you down massively. And there's a lot of stupid people out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I say stupid people, let me be very clear. Those are people who overpromise to you because they want the job or because they want the project, you know, an independent contractor or a vendor who's coming to you and promising you they could help you. They'll make you a star because they have a publicity company, but they don't know anything about your target audience. So there's never any way that they're going to do it. Or an advertising company who says, I'm great at Facebook ads or whatever it is. But again, they don't understand your product. So there's no way that they could make that promise because they don't have a track record yet of propelling that kind of a product forward. So surrounding yourself with smart people. The way we define smart people is people who have a track record of accomplishing what you need accomplished. And here's a really super rule to remember. We don't judge people by what they think or they say, because most of these people are very honest, ethical, moral, legal people, right? They think that they can help you become great. They say, oh my God, I could definitely do this for you. No problem. Just hire me. Just give me my $10,000 down payment and I will help you move forward. So we don't judge people by what they think or they say, only by what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's super important. And what's even more important, because we have to always, like we were talking about before, hold ourselves accountable to the same rules that we hold other people accountable to. When we set a target for ourselves, whether it's a money target or a weight target or a target for a relationship with our kids or our spouses or whatever, we don't judge ourselves by what we think or what we say, because most of the time, the person inside of our head is much grander than ourselves, right? We think at certain times, you go to a seminar, you listen to a personal development tape, and all of a sudden you believe tomorrow I'm going to make an extra $5 million. I know I can do it. Like I know it. I just know it now. So you don't judge yourself by what you think or you say, only by what you have done. So
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that you can't do things that you haven't done before. What it means is that when we set targets, we have to figure out the few key actions that will get us, if we do them right and we do them consistently, will get us from point A to point B. And then make sure that those key actions are based on things that we have a track record of doing. If we don't have a track record of waking up early, then we have to figure out a way to fix that. Like, what do we have a track record of doing? Like, is it motivating ourselves in a different way? Well, then motivate yourself to wake up a little bit earlier, right? We have to figure out how to marry what we are good at or what we have done in the past to what we need to accomplish today.
Okay. That's great. I know I've heard you talk a lot about how leaders show up. So could you, and leading by example, basically through your actions, both in your companies and in your personal life, can you talk to our audience just a little bit about, best practices for not only talking the talk, but walking the walk?
I think you just summed it up. I mean,
Did
that's
I?
it. Like, you lead by example. I think that a leader has a responsibility to lead by example, and a
Mm-hmm.
leader that does not lead by example is not a leader, or is not a leader for long. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could be a great leader
Yeah.
and then change because something else changes in your life, and you no longer come across as an earnest person. So it's important that you are clear, right? A leader, in order to lead by example, you have to be clear. You have to be clear on where you are and where you're going. You got to be clear on who you need next to you in order to get there. You got to be clear on the relationships that you need to get there, the tasks you need to get there, the daily actions you need to get there, right? And then once you're super clear on those things, or once you're super clear on at least the basics, then you lead by example with yourself. Now, one of the things that we do inside of our companies is we have a set of values. And I believe that you and everybody else should have a personal set of values also, because you can't have corporate values without having personal values, because our corporate values are based on my personal values, because I am the CEO of our companies, right? We've got 11 companies inside of our portfolio. I am at the top of that org chart. So everything drips down from me. If I show up and I'm showing up late on a regular basis, one of the values inside of our company is that we show up. We show up on time every single time, right? We show up not just for ourselves, but for everybody else inside that company. We show up not just for everybody inside of that company, but for every customer that we have. We show up not just for every customer that we have, but for every prospect that may be looking at us, so that when prospects ask us a question, we're there and we answer quickly, right? And we answer fully. There's no cut and paste. We people are actually showing up and helping people, from prospect to customer to team to ourselves. So I think it's important. And I know this is going a little bit more detail than you probably wanted, but I think it's important that we lead by example. I think it's important that in order to lead by example, that we are super clear. And in order to be super clear, I think we have to have values, so that when there is a decision to be made, we can just look at our values and make that decision and stay the course.
I love that.
And that goes for family, inside your family. I mean, that's probably more important inside of my family, with my kids and with my, the decisions that we make as a unit. More important there than it is inside of our companies. I mean, with your companies, if you screw up, what do you lose? You lose money. I mean, I don't ever want that to happen, because money is important, but I also don't want it to happen because there's a lot of employees that we have inside of those companies, and I have a responsibility to help them. But in my family, if we up, excuse my language, if we mess up, then we mess up big, because it's our family.
Yeah. I think that that's so critical. And that's another lesson I did not actually integrate until probably my late 30s. And this goes to interpersonal relationships, or, dating, or that kind of stuff. But it was really just not having an alignment of values, standards, and ethics, and morals too. And I think whether it's personal or whether it's professional, surrounding yourself with people who are on the same page with you with values, morals, standards, ethics is really critical. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. And let me just go deeper on that because of what you just said. How much more comfortable are you around somebody, anybody, friend or employee or whatever, when you know their values? Because when you know their values, they become more predictable, right? Predictable in a good way. If you're going to go out with a bunch of girlfriends, and you're going out with girlfriends who are family people and are really good-hearted people, you're going to go out with them. You might have a really great time. If you're going to go out with a bunch of your friends who are drinkers, and they have to drink to the point where they all vomit and pass out in the clubs, what's going to happen there. If you're going to go out with a bunch of friends who are going to hit on every single guy, even though they're married, that's going to put you in an awkward situation. So out of those three groups, if you have to make a decision as to who you're going to go out with, depending on the kind of night you want, you know each one of their values, right? You can't condemn somebody for having values that are not your values. Everybody's values are great and they're personal for them, but it makes them predictable, and it gives me the ability to feel comfortable with people when I know they're going to show up on time, they're going to bust their ass, or I'm going to be able to go out and have dinner with them without having to worry about them hitting on the waitress and embarrassing me.
Right.
So it's nice.
That's really important. One of the things that I admire most about you is your mindset, and regardless of, the amount of stress that you're carrying, which is significant, being the CEO of 11 companies, you always remind me about like the importance of positivity and optimism. And I'm naturally kind of wired that way anyway. But I don't think everybody is. So can you talk a little bit about just the importance of mindset with our audience?
Yeah, I can. I don't know how much value I'm going to bring with that topic because I think mindset is massively important, but I don't remember, I can't give you an equation to follow for a good mindset. I will tell you how I got it. I did not, I wasn't born into a family of business people. I was born into a wonderful family. I mean, I'm so grateful for my parents. They're great. They're both still around. They're both still awesome, and they're both, important in my life. But my father was an employee. He had a very employee mentality, and so I didn't get the achieve, achieve more mentality from him.
Yeah.
He was brilliant and very, very patient. And I learned so much. I actually did a video on top 6 mentors in my life and all these, amazing mentors that most people are household names. And then the one that had the most impact on me was my father. So I ended off with him and I shared stories about him. So I think that had a lot to do with my positive mindset, not just positive that helps me keep going in dark times as well as fun times,
Mm-hmm.
but in every other way, family, business, personal, everything. But I spent a lot of years developing that because I guess around college time, when I was in college, I started to get really hooked into the personal development field.
Mm-hmm.
And personal development a long time ago used to really be personal development. It wasn't a bunch of sales pitches. It was just a bunch of good people who were literally trying to help you tap into a better you. And it was fun. I had a great time and I made some very, very good friends. Many of those personal development guys who were mentors to me when I was just getting started and growing, then got into Club 28, our advisory firm, years and years later. And I became mentors to them. And it's amazing. It's just such a great full circle story for some of them, for me, about some of them. And now I'm good friends with many of them. So like we text each other on a regular basis, which is super. But they had a lot of impact on me. It was books, it was seminars, it was audio programs, it was videos, it was everything. And again, positive mindset, I think, is one of the few things that are super important to everybody, which means if we go back to what we were talking about initially, we have to make it a study in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
positive mindset probably has more to do with the people you surround yourself with than anything else.
Yep.
And I don't know if I've ever verbalized this to you. Most people laugh when I tell them this. I have 7 friends in my life, and everybody's like, "How you count your friends?" I don't, but I have 7 good friends in my life, like
Mm-hmm.
really, really good friends. They all sit on my board. They're like family to me. I've known all of them for 20 plus years. They would do anything for me. I would do anything for them. They are all wonderful people, wonderful family people, wonderful business people, ethical. I really admire them all. And those are the people I surround myself with. Every single month, I'm with them. There's very few people that I hang out with during the week outside of my teams and my kids.
Yeah. Well, let me, I think that's great. I think, the importance of friendship and surrounding yourself with positive people in your circle is critical. Um, and I think you spoke about this a little bit earlier, about smart people. To me, that smart people aren't the people that are inclined towards negativity and disorganization and kind of blaming others. Like smart people are people who take responsibility for their actions. They're self-aware. They're constantly learning. They're quick to, if they mess up, acknowledge, hey, I made a
Yeah.
mistake. They're willing to be vulnerable in front of you, and they're more solution oriented rather than somebody who's like, oh, we have this problem, it's the end of the world. They're constantly looking for, instead of getting whooped up in fear, and what's going to happen, and well, how's my apple cart been upset today, they're like, all right, the environment has changed. I got some bad news this morning. What am I going to do about it? And how can I use this opportunity to like really improve my situation? So any thoughts on just how, whether your circle is positive or negative, how that can impact you as a business leader or a leader in your own life?
Yeah, I don't know that you are a leader if you're surrounded by negative people like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, the answer to your question is those people are not listening to this, probably.
Yeah.
People who want to improve themselves, people who want to excel and be happier and more fulfilled and whatever it is that they are focused on.
Yeah.
They're not listening to this.
But they
So,
might have some people in their lives
oh,
who would
definitely.
fall into that
Everybody has
category,
that.
and they might be struggling. And I'm sharing this in the spirit of, I've gone through this in my life. Like
Yes.
I feel like the tide is kind of parted now and I'm on the other side of it. But for a long time, I kind of carried the weight of people like that or relationships like that in my life. And they weren't productive, and they were
Yep.
slowing me down or holding me back, or just not building me up. I didn't feel like it was a mutually beneficial relationship. It felt, sort of one-sided.
Yeah. And it's sad. The
Mm-hmm.
higher you go in your life, I don't mean to ever give an analogy like I think that one person is better than another, but certainly the closer you go to a growth mindset, the
Mm-hmm.
further your way you're going to go from somebody who doesn't have a growth mindset. It's still good, like
Yeah.
completely different lives, completely different goals in life. But you have to remember that there's a path that you must follow in order to grow a company like yours. There's a path you must follow in order to be healthy like you are. There's a path you must follow in order to be happy like you are, right? In a relationship, in your own life, in everything. And in order to stay on that path, make believe that there's a fence on both sides. That fence is your borders. There's rules that you have to follow in order to stay on that path. Like
Yep.
you can't sleep, you can't go to bed at 9 p.m. and wake up at 12 noon. Like you can't sleep away the entire day, every day.
Right.
You can't go on vacation and decide not to be plugged in to your email, to your text, to everything every day of the month. Like you can't, although most people would love to do that, right? So
Yeah.
you've got to understand what the rules are over here, and those rules might change as you get closer and closer to your goal. But as those rules change, it's going to make it more difficult to stay in relationships with certain people in your life. And it's your responsibility, if you want to stay on that path, to allow those people to exit from your life. And it is probably one of the most painful things. And it's not possible completely when it comes to family.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have to distance yourself. Like I do have people in my family, not my kids, but my extended family,
Mm-hmm.
who are negative, very negative about certain things. And I limit my time with them.
Yep.
Or I limit my time discussing certain things with them. And these are people that I love, but I'm not going to spend that much time with them. And when I do, I'm going to try to guide the conversation to conversations that I know are kind of neutral. And
Yep.
as soon as they go negative, which I know they're inevitably going to do, I have to get up and go to the bathroom more than likely at that point. Or I've got a call that came in that I've got to just for a second, I got to take, or
Yeah.
I find a way to change the topic, or I literally sing a song in my head.
That's great. I
Yeah.
love it. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I really appreciate your time. How are you doing on time? Or do we have a time for a couple more minutes, or do you need to
We've
jump?
got it. Absolutely. I'm good.
Okay, cool. So Chris, I wanted to know, I know you're not somebody who advocates for, supplements or vitamins, but are there any things that you utilize in your daily routine or regimen that really help you feel strong and productive as a CEO and as an athlete?
Um, I mean, I'll say that for the last, I don't know, you might be able to tell me more accurately than this, how long I've been taking C60, but so the supplement from and it's not just regular C60, whatever, yours is the one that I believe in. Yours is the only one that I take. You know that my board of directors also, most of those guys take that Purple Power. I'm going to use a word that I heard a friend use one time when he was talking about supplements, and I've used it every time since, and it's the word currently. So currently, there are certain supplements that I take, but I am constantly testing supplements out and testing them not just by putting them into my body, but then taking them out of my lifestyle for 2 weeks or 3 weeks to see if I see a difference.
Okay.
And if I don't see a difference when I take them out, they're out, right? Because they don't earn their right to be in there.
Smart.
I
Yeah.
believe that often, and I certainly went way off track on this many times in my life. Often you could get up to the point where you're spending $400, $500, $600 a month in supplements. You have a cabinet full of supplements where you're taking a handful 2-3 times a day. And I think that's really harmful for your liver. And I know that I have taken a lot of extremely healthy, expensive supplements and eventually began to feel worse. And it was probably because I was taxing my internal organs by having to digest all those pills.
Yeah.
So I believe in healthy foods. I believe in sleep. I believe in a lot of natural things prior to taking supplements. There's a handful right now that I'm taking, which I don't believe there's anything that earns the right to be mentioned, because I fear that somebody else would go out and get it thinking that it's, a cognitive performance enhancer or going to help them live longer, look younger, whatever the case is, when I don't know for sure if it is. I will tell you, I like collagen right now. Good, really good collagen, which I think is hard to find good collagen. So between that and C60, there are a few other things that I take, but nothing awesome that I want to share.
Yeah, that's great. I'm a big fan of C60 and collagen too. So we'll keep doing those things. We talk a lot about it at C60 Purple Power. We all the things that you've covered. We talk about the importance of a healthy, clean, nutritious diet and organic whenever possible, because we are just inundated with toxins in our environment right now. We talk about the importance of quality sleep. We talk about the importance of, like you said, staying hydrated, drinking a lot of clean water. We talk about the importance of sunshine and exercise and fresh air and doing everything that you can in your internal and in your external environment to detoxify it, so you can give yourself the best chance to enjoy a healthy, long, productive life. And we're all about taking preventative measures. And we beat the drum around taking responsibility for your own health and taking back control over your health. So I love today's conversation because you really have kind of tapped into all of the things that I think are really important for being a leader of your business and in your own life. The last time you and I spoke, you said something to me that has stuck with me, and it goes back to your advocacy for being a student of communication, but you're also such a phenomenal leader of people. And the thing that you said to me was, Jess, people, whether it's in your family or in your business, they want to feel heard, and they also want to know that they're protected by you. And I know that, but I've never heard it verbalized and packaged in that way. And I said to you, I was like, wow, Chris, that's gold. That was such a good nugget of knowledge for me. But maybe you can just expand a little bit on that, because I think that that's a great way for us to kind of wrap up this conversation about how to be a good leader of your business and your life. Because it boils down to communication, and it also boils down to being responsible in how you show up. And I think you really, for me, you identified like the true kind of like heart of the matter about like what people want and need from each one of us in our interactions.
Yeah, I think it boils down in every human life. that everybody wants to be, they want to feel heard and they want to feel safe. And I think it's our responsibility in any kind of a relationship, whether that's a a romantic relationship, or it's a relationship with your kids, or a relationship with your team members, or a relationship with friends, whatever, that when you're communicating with somebody, you make it a point to make sure that they understand that they're heard, and that they feel safe, like that it's a safe environment to talk with you. You're not going to go out there and, you're not recording it and putting it on Facebook Live immediately.
Yeah.
But it goes much deeper than that. Obviously, I make a joke about it, but making sure that people feel heard, making sure that they feel safe, has changed a tremendous number of things inside of my life. And it's not something that I was born knowing. It's, goes back to that thing where you have to make certain things in your life a study. I came across that 2 different times. The hurt, people have to feel heard, and I didn't quite get it. And then I went through and I started to understand it. And after a year or so, I actually got it. It was something that I heard and I just thought, I don't know that I agree with that. I think it sounds interesting. And I banked it in the back of my head, and eventually I totally got it. And things have changed significantly. And then I also heard, people have to feel safe. And I think everybody strives for that feeling in life. They want to always know that they're heard, because that makes them feel good about themselves. It makes them feel valued, and they want to feel safe, right? Nobody wants to feel like they're walking a thin line. No employee wants to think that their job's on the line every freaking day.
Right.
No employer wants to think that the next competitor is right around the corner, is going to shut them the hell down. In your relationship, nobody wants to think that their friend, that their significant other or their spouse is potentially cheating on them. Right. It just makes your blood boil just thinking about certain things. So the extent at which we could go to the exact opposite and make people feel like, I am committed to this relationship, whatever the heck it is. I'm committed. Like, inside of Club 28, when we sit down and we talk about business, I am committed to you during that hour. And even afterwards, you have a question or something like that, you email it into me. When I have the time, which I always try to make the time for Club 28ers, I always jump in and help. And I always will. You need a piece of paperwork, boom, I will. If I have it inside of my files for my entities that I have used and that I like, I will just give it, right? Because I want you to feel safe and protected inside of that. I want you to feel like you're part of, more than part of a team, but part of a family. So anyway, I think that's super important, no matter what you're talking about in life, that you strive to make sure that people understand those 2 things every time you communicate with them.
Yeah. I think that's great advice and wonderful words of wisdom. So thank you so much. Chris, I really appreciate your time today. It has just been an honor and a treat to speak with you. So thanks for carving time out of your busy schedule to sit down and share some of your amazing insights with our audience. I greatly appreciate it. If people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for people to seek out more expertise from you?
Well, I'm all over social right now.
Okay.
I'm not a social person, but over the last year, I've been forced to go all over social. So we have a lot of content on YouTube. There's content on LinkedIn, Instagram, all over the place. It's right under my name, Chris Guerriero. Or they could just go to my website. Like, on the website, we have a tremendous amount of good content mostly for CEOs or business people, but also for performance as a leader, whether that's a leader of, an organization inside your neighborhood, or a leader of a company. So they could go there and get a tremendous amount of information. Also, it's all
might
free.
just be a leader of your own home too, right?
Absolutely. Of course. Leader of yourself, more important.
We will post all of your links in our show notes here, and definitely check out Chris's YouTube channel. It is phenomenal. You guys are interested in more great content from Chris. It is just jam-packed with, I'm calling them nuggets of knowledge. So much wisdom and insight and expertise from Chris. It's available at your fingertips for free. So check it out, like and subscribe. If you guys like this video today, please like and share it with your friends, and we will see you next time. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you.